Netcasts you love.
From people you trust.
This is Twit.
You have in your hand the Vigor.
It's the Vigor.
Now,
I'm not sure how I
with
feel
the
about
LG
that name.
G3. So how is this different from the G3?
Well, if you were to just look at this and not have a sense of scale, you'd think it was the LG G3. It's like...
Same thing, button on the back, the metal finish, nice brushed metal finish.
Yeah, although it looks brushed metal, it's actually
plastic.
more of a plastic, but it does a pretty good job of being faux metal, I'd say. Gives it a little bit more of a premium
QHD
look.
display?
The display, it's a 5-inch 720p.
Chad's phone is ringing.
Calling.
Chad will be here
Hello?
later with his telephone system.
Oh, no. See, I thought my phone was ringing. No, that ringtone, as far as I know, is not on this device.
I do like the old-fashioned ringtone.
I know, totally.
Yeah,
Actually, that's what my wife prefers. She puts an imitation old-fashioned
it's a phone
ringtone on it. Yeah, exactly.
Telemarketer.
It's a telemarketer, as usual.
Call back some other time.
We're on the air, do you mind? So, what's the difference between this and the G3?
So this is, let's say this is more of like the entry/mid-range LG G3. It's the Vigor. You can get it on Sprint and AT&T right now. The display is a 5-inch 720p LCD IPS display.
Big difference. I mean, the G3 is famous for its 1440p
Oh,
display.
yeah. I mean, yes, of course the resolution is going to be different because, you know, it's an entry-level device, right? So just to give you a sense of where this sits price-wise, Sprint, you can get it for $29.99 on contract, $49.99 on contract with AT&T. If you're buying it outright, cash, just off contract, $312 and $334 respectively.
A lot less expensive than an LG G3.
Yes, exactly. Right. So that kind of gives you an idea of pricing wise where this sits as far as LG's devices are concerned. So it's definitely the entry level version of the G3. And right off the top, you're not spending a lot for it, but I think what they get right with this is they emulate the design, the body design of the LG G3, which a lot of people like. And so for an entry-level device, you get a pretty thin, pretty, elegant looking device. Design-wise, I think it looks pretty nice all around. You were saying before the show started that it kind of has the look of a Nexus 5.
I thought it was
very similar,
about that size,
right.
5-inch screen.
The only telling difference would be down here, but it really has a lot of a similar shape to the Nexus 5.
Is it a pure Android experience?
No, it is not. Okay. So that is the thing. You actually get the full software experience that the G3 gets. So that has some benefits to it. You have tap to turn the screen on.
I like
Let's see if that works.
Although Lollipop's got to get
that.
So.
Yeah, that's getting it. But you get it in an entry-level device here. You get a knock code. You can have a security code to where you knock instead of do swipies or numbers or whatever.
Knock 3 times and the phone will turn
on different parts of the screen.
Knock,
so
knock,
it's like
knock,
up
knock.
here, down there, and
cool.
boom, it's on. There's a guest mode. And that's also a part, actually, of Lollipop.
Right.
So you get this in pre-Lollipop on here.
We're starting to see this kind of with Cyanogen Mod and with TouchWiz. There's some of the Lollipop stuff is leaking in.
Yeah, they're converging.
But it is a KitKat phone.
So this is KitKat. This is 4.4.2. Along with that, though, is just kind of a lot of software bloat. The internal storage on this is actually 8 gigs. So it's pretty light. And when you're talking about what you get out of the box after system apps and all that kind of stuff, less than 4 gigs. So half of your internal storage right out of the box is eaten up by system and installed apps.
It almost seems like it should be a crime to sell an 8-gig phone.
It is, but at the same time, if you pop off the back, it is removable. I'm not going to do it now because then I'll spend the rest of the time trying to put it back on. But if I take it off, there is a micro SD card slot back there, so you can expand it. That doesn't necessarily help you for apps, but it definitely helps you for media that you want to store on the device. If you're living in the cloud or whatever, you can download it to your SD card. So let's see here. Quad-core 1.2 gigahertz Snapdragon 400, and that's kind of the the baseline for entry-level devices. We see a lot of that these days. 8-megapixel rear-facing camera. This does have the G3's laser autofocus.
Oh, interesting.
So that's a good inclusion. If only it worked the way you expect that it will. And Brian, I don't know if you have some of those photos loaded up. Some of the photos are okay. It's this similar kind of thing that I say about a lot of these lower to mid-end devices as far as the camera is concerned. Great light, you're going to get pretty good pictures. Low light, it's going to be grainy, very blurry. I had a lot of blur. I kept most of the blur out of here because I wanted to show off the benefits of the camera and not just the weaknesses. But I think it's okay, but I would definitely consider the camera on this phone one of the downsides, and if camera is important to you, you might want to look elsewhere. That just kind of has a haziness to it. I really held myself still to try and take that. I have no idea, but I'm tripping out right now just looking at it.
The whole point of laser focus was that it would be faster, more accurate?
More accurate, yeah, and actually faster.
I mean, everything's been in focus, right?
Yeah, everything that I put in here is actually in focus. If you blow this up, you'd see a little aliasing around the feather, around the flowers.
It's more the sensor that's the problem, not the focus.
Yeah, absolutely. I would say. There you go. See, you get in on it and you start to see.
Focused on the wrong thing is what it focused on.
Yeah. So, and a little bit of lag using the camera too between.
But we have to point out this is not.
Exactly.
And I think I really appreciate the fact that you're, instead of, as most of us are, well, it's got to be high end or nothing. Understand, some people only have a few $100.
I would definitely.
They want a decent phone. That's not a great picture.
This is a front-facing camera.
Is that blown up? Oh, that's the front-facing camera.
This is the front-facing camera. I think the next one is rear-facing camera. Yeah.
Much
just to give you a sense
better,
of the clarity differences between the two. I mean, I would definitely say that reviewing devices like this is probably the hardest type of device
because
to review.
We're snobs.
We get the best of the best around here, and so you have to really take a look at these devices through the eyes of someone who, this is their price point.
Right.
This is what they can afford. What are the best options there? And I'd say through and through, it has weaknesses, but it still does a pretty good job. Performance, it performs in the way that a Snapdragon 400 is going to perform with 1 gig of RAM. It's okay. For multitasking, it's probably not the best device in the world, but I don't think, that's power user stuff. And power users aren't going to get this device.
And they're going to pay through the nose for their habits.
Exactly. Exactly.
So pros and cons on the LG G3. What is it? The Vigor.
The Vigor.
Vigor.
Well, the con, I don't like the name Vigor. But aside from that, let's see here. So pros, I think the screen is a pretty good compromise for the low end, 720p, and it's a pretty nice looking screen. The design, has a nice kind of premium quality design for a low price. And the contract price is really low, $29.99 entry point on Sprint if you're committed to a 2-year contract. And that's a pretty great price to get a device like this. Cons, the camera, obviously. Performance, slowdowns, but you're going to kind of expect that on a low-end device running the 400. And then storage. I mean, it's hard to be very happy about the fact that more than half of your storage is eaten up right out of the box, but you have the ability to expand that through microSD.
Buy?
I'd say buy. If you're a casual user and you only have a certain amount of money to spend, it's a pretty good deal. If you're going to buy off contract, Moto G might be a better option. They're about the same price. This might actually be a little bit more expensive than the Moto G. So I would say, try them out.
We loved the Moto G.
Yeah, and the Moto G is great.
That was real. That'd probably be our choice.
That's like the standard that these lower end devices are now compared against because it's such a powerful device.
I also have to point out that for a little bit more, you can get a 64 gig 1+1. If you can get one.
Good point.
For $350. Lots of storage, state-of-the-art flagship specs.
Yeah, if you're willing to play their games.
But you have to. Well,
they had a pre-order.
I think it's getting easier. They had a pre-order Tuesday, right?
It was an hour-long pre-order, and because of site issues, it ended up being 3 hours long, and it was plagued with issues. But yes, you're right. If you have a little bit more to spend off contract, and you're willing to kind of jump through a few hoops, the 1+1 is hard to beat.
Yeah. Jason Howell, he's the king of Android. It's all about Android and the Android app arena.
That's right. Thank you.
We thank you for your review.
Absolutely.